Allison is one of the hardest workers in her industry. After years of learning her trade, she's now in the top 1% of real estate agents. She volunteers at nonprofits, supports local charities, and one of the most eligible bachelorettes. She's smart, savvy, and authentic. Allison is comfortable in her own skin and very independent. Her independence, however, can often intimidate men. Let's learn about Allison and what she's learned from her dating experiences on this episode of The Catch.
Well, I had one guy tell me that all I cared about was my job, my dog, and my charities. I was like, okay, fine.
Welcome to The Catch. Today we're talking to superstar real estate agent Allison Rank. You're a real estate person here in Kansas City, and you're working on big projects. And I mean, for a young woman your age, I mean, you're pretty young
Very young
in the real estate industry.
Yeah, for the industry.
But you're doing incredibly well. I think are you probably one of in the top 5%?
I'm in the top 1%.
Whoa, top 1%.
Yeah, I'm in the top 1%.
Mad props
Thanks.
to you. I mean, that's. I mean, I really, honestly, there's, to me, again, when I get to hang out with people like you who are successful, gorgeous, I'm like, wow, that's a real compliment to be able to just invite you over and say, hey, let's talk about this stuff.
Sure.
Yeah, because I mean, the thing is that, like, you're a successful woman. You have a very busy career. You're always on the go. It's hard to catch up with you. Seriously, it's hard to keep track of you.
Yeah.
Where are you now?
I know, right?
You know, and
Because I have to get away. If I don't leave, then I'm working. You know.
yeah.
I'll
So if you don't
find a
get
way.
away from the city, you're going to be working on
something.
Yeah, something.
Yeah.
But being all of that, it's, as you're still a single woman in the city, and you as a woman who's in the 1 percentile in real estate, which again is amazing. I mean, I would suspect that some of the things that we've heard is that, like, men get really intimidated by women like that. They're like, no, that's too much for me to handle. I mean, we're gonna talk about things like that. Like, I mean, it's like, for example, what are some of the things that guys have said to you because you're a successful entrepreneur?
Well, I had one guy tell me that all I cared about was my job, my dog, and my charities. I was like, okay, fine.
But that's not true.
His point was that I didn't care, like, I didn't make an effort. I didn't care that much about him. He was feeling like he wasn't a priority in my life, and frankly, he wasn't. He hadn't earned it, in my opinion. So, yeah.
Wow. So how do we earn this?
How do we earn it?
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, it takes time, It's not going to be overnight.
Yeah. Are there steps? Are there things are there requirements that you have? I mean, tell me about this.
I don't have, like, a checklist or anything. Like, okay, check. What's the next one? Check.
Yeah.
No. I think when it's right, it's right. Like, it just naturally comes together.
So we're very much more of a, like, this is an organic type thing. Yeah. I think that's really hard because, like, people try to, like, match make, and they try to force something, or even guys, like, I mean, just being a bachelor and things like that, dating. I realize, like, I think the most important lesson that I've learned is that you just have to be there, and if the door opens, you get the privilege of walking in, but you can't force the door open.
Exactly.
You can't. I mean, because you'll mess up a relationship.
Yeah.
And I think, like, I've learned that it's better to have a long-term friendship with a woman than a short-term
relationship
try and then fail, and then it's wrapped.
Nothing.
It's done. Because I mean, after that, after a guy's try to push in, then it's like, then after that, you're always just like, okay, this guy's trying to push on me, and it's kind of throwing a wrench in the whole thing.
Or I'm sure you have had women you've dated that you remain friends with because you were friends. You had established that friendship in the beginning, and those are, like, the best. Where maybe it's like, this isn't right or not right for me right now, or not connecting, but we're still mature enough to be friends.
Yeah.
In fact, there are guys that I've gone out with, like, met on Bumble or whatever, that we didn't connect in that way, but we stayed friends, and that's cool.
I mean, I would stay friends with you too, though.
my point is, like, there was no awkwardness. Like, I'm happy for him if he's dating or seeing somebody, you know, he's happy for me. It's not like, oh, you can't, oh, I don't want to be around him if he chooses to see somebody else or something, like a lot of women do.
Do you, although what I'm wondering is, do you think that there's a level of ulterior motive at all, or do you feel that, or do you sense it? No, it's cool.
I would say the ones that I have kept, and then I'm only talking a couple of them but it's cool. Yeah.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of women out there, but there's ones that you come across, or like I come across, being my personal judgment, that are like, they're cool. Mm-hmm. And then there's the ones that are like high maintenance, mm-hmm. and there are ones that are really demanding, but you seem like just a really, I mean, besides being incredibly successful, you seem really cool, just laid back and chill. Well, I understand.
I think part of it's like understanding human psychology, you know, and how people are, and knowing that we all have our own reasons why things happen or don't happen, and having respect for the other person too. And not being insecure. I'm not insecure, so just because you don't like me doesn't mean that I'm not worthy of somebody's love and affection.
What makes you not insecure? Because there's a lot of insecurity.
Yeah. I feel like we should be filming this.
Yeah. Well, just tell me about this insecurity thing. Like,
I can't speculate on why other women are insecure, but for me, it's that I'm comfortable in my own skin, and I know who I am as a person, and I'm okay with being alone. I think there are a lot of people that aren't okay with being alone. They don't like that feeling.
Yeah, that's true. I was just talking to someone yesterday who said that she was a serial monogamist, which means that she'd gone from relationship to relationship to relationship to relationship, and then she just broke up with a great guy, gave her lots of space, didn't pressure her or anything like that, was understanding, but she's like, I need to expand, and he let her go, and I was like, most women would think that's really crazy, that you let a really great guy who gave you your space and supported you, you let him go. And then she's like, I know, but I've never been alone before, and I need to experience what it's like to be alone.
Well, that's almost like it's almost like she's in a situation where it doesn't matter what the situation is, she might find a way to monopolize it.
Who knows? Well, but then her next question was, now I've got a girl roommate, and I always know what she's doing. We're doing something, we're kicking it, and she's like, is that my new boyfriend now? Like, do I need to be with someone? And now it's just a girl. Yeah. We're not dating, but it's a girl. But right. I'm like, no, it's different, because there's different expectations between a boyfriend, girlfriend,
absolutely.
and a roommate.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, but there is that space or that void that's getting filled with companionship, even if it is a friendship.
What do you think? So you've been married in the past, right? Yeah. So how long have you been a single lady?
5 years.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Cool. I mean, I don't know. I feel like people talk about being single like it's like so bad or something like that. It's and I kind of feel I've always been like I've always celebrated being single. Yeah. Because I'm like, that's when you don't have to consider anyone. You can come and go as you please.
Yes, I love that. But it's also, I would say, I will be truthful about the fact that I think it may be a detriment in dating or getting serious with somebody, because I'm so used to doing whatever I want, whenever I want, on my schedule and my terms.
So it's really just like, I mean, if you dated a guy who was the same way, would that be cool with you? Like, he's doing it his way, his times on his terms. Would that work? I
don't know.
Yeah, that's interesting. Because a guy is going to have to. Is a guy going to have to deal with that, or are you going to be able to adapt to being in a relationship?
So my most successful relationship after my marriage was a long distance one. And we were the best of friends, and we're still friends. But it was good because, we saw each other every 2 weeks for like 3 days at a time, and it was always fun, and we had the togetherness and the separation. And so I don't know. I haven't had a long-term relationship since my marriage that I've been with here in Kansas City.
I was reading an article about a group of women who like really they got together and hung out because their husbands traveled all during the week. and all of the women were saying that's the perfect formula for a relationship.
Yeah, honestly, I think it might be.
They had short-term relationships with these guys and 50-year relationships, and what they found was that, or what they all agreed upon was that when you have someone that you can have wine with, girlfriends you can have wine with, girlfriends you can support with, husbands that come home every once in a while and give you the freedom to do whatever you want.
Because you miss them, they're gone. You kind of miss them. You're
Exactly.
like excited to see them.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. That might work for me.
Do you think maybe that might be on your list of things, the criteria to look for a long distance relationship?
Maybe just the husband that travels for work. Requirement: you must travel for work because I only want to see you on the weekend.
He's like, I'm home for 2 weeks, honey. We get to hang out.
Oh,
You're like,
shit.
oh no.
Not again. When do you go back?
It's hilarious. So when it comes to like, what about like the assumptions? Yeah. So you've said some assumptions already. Some of the assumptions that guys have about your life. You know, like you only care about your dog, your charity, and your job. What are some other things that now? Obviously, that's not true.
What do you? Assumptions that aren't true.
Yeah. That's not absolutely true. What are some other things that you care about?
No, I care a lot about. I care a lot about other people. I care about my family. I care about my friends. I care about always doing my best and giving everything that I have and whatever it is that I'm doing, whether it's my job or the time that I'm spending with the people that I'm with in the moment. Like, there are a lot of things I care about outside of just that.
Do you think that, being that 1% professional, does it have an effect on your your personal relationships?
I don't know. When you say personal relationships, are you talking friendships or men?
Dating, men. Yeah. How do guys take that professional 1% life that you have? Because that's 1%. That's not a joke.
Well, I don't think a lot of them know I'm 1%, but because I'm not like going around bragging about it, that's not my nature. I think what intimidates them is the fact that I don't necessarily need them. And I've said that before, like if I'm with you, it's because I want to be with you. It's not because I feel like I need you. I don't.
Actually, I think that's really great because honestly, it's like I've always been like, I don't want someone to need me. I want someone to want to be with me.
Yeah.
How did you get to that? How did you get there? Yeah.
Well, my divorce and that whole process of healing and becoming my own again and the struggle that I went through with it has obviously developed me into, because at the time I was a person that definitely relied on him 100% in everything. He was super controlling, abusive in lots of capacities, and I had very little self-worth and didn't really just wasn't a happy person. So like I had to heal through all of that and become who I was before I was with him again, who was happy and self-sufficient and didn't really ever need anybody and independent in all those capacities. So yeah.
So it's kind of like talking to you is kind of like talking to a new you. Talking to you today is not the same woman I'd be talking to 10 years ago.
Oh yeah. Yeah, definitely not.
What's different?
I had to rebuild myself.
And what do you mean by that?
I mean that I just had to get mentally healthy again. Like I had to.
And what does that mean?
It means that when you're beat down so bad emotionally and mentally, you have to sort of just recover. And for me, my way of healing or proving him wrong was diving into work and proving that I didn't need him and I was going to be successful in my life without him, because he told me I would never make it without him and that I would be living with a guy in a year. And I was like, you don't know me at all. And I've been with you for 6 years and married, and you do not know me at all.
What didn't he know?
He didn't know how, well, I think he did know how I was strong, because he tried to slowly manipulate that and beat it down, and he did for a long time. But obviously I don't talk to him, but I am proving him wrong that I don't need him or a guy. And it's not like I'm out there saying I don't need a guy or don't want a guy. It's just I'm going to choose to be me and happy and independent. That's a long-winded answer. So, yeah.
That's actually great because one time I think we were going to go play tennis or we were going to go hang out at Liberty Memorial that one time.
Yeah.
And I was like, I let's go hang out. And I was
Oh,
like,
yeah.
And I could come pick you up. But you're like, but I was like, you're an independent woman.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I don't, I realize that that's the case.
I was like, no, that's okay. I'll meet you there.
All right, cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Rules. So I had this crazy idea once when I was having a conversation. My friend Christine, we're talking about how if people had rule books or operation manuals and
Yeah.
things like that, to make them work, what would your rule book look like? So for example, like if I would ask Allison, what are the top rules to date Allison? What would they be?
You have to have a job.
Okay, that makes me out already. Okay, strike one.
You have to be a kind person, a generous person.
Charities.
Yeah, I'm, and it's not just charities. It could be generous with your time. I feel like we're all here to help in some way. That's what we're put on this planet to do. And so if it's going to be all about you all the time, that's not going to work for me. Your own purpose and your own hobbies and things like that would be important for me. Like you have to have your own life outside of me.
Yeah.
I couldn't be with somebody that was just 100% all the time, all about me. As probably great as that sounds for some people or women, that's not. Be like, you need to do your own thing. You need to have your thing, whatever it is.
Yeah, that sounds really helpful.
Like I want to support that. As long as it's a healthy thing and not like a substance abuse problem or something. But yeah.
I gotta have it.
Yeah. So I'm big on being a good person. That's important for me. And I want to have a family, so he would need to want to have kiddos.
So that's got to be part of the plan.
Definitely. Mm-hmm. And I'm okay with a guy who has kids. But he would have to be willing to have more kids because I love kids. So.
So that's a big thing. So that's almost like, in a sense, like you're a catch.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, because you would be an amazing catch, absolutely. But that might be listed as one of the catches as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what are some other catches that are like that?
Other catches. I think intelligence. Education to me is important, but I wouldn't say that you would have to have like a specific degree or something, but you need to want to learn, improve yourself, enjoy, whether that's reading or listening or watching some kind of documentary. I love TED Talks, stuff like that. I want to have intellectual conversations and share that with another person versus it being superficial. Yeah. I hate people that just talk about other people. And I don't want to just talk about my day because that gets old. I don't want to talk about real estate all day or at night after I've been working and doing it all the time. So he'd have to have his own thing that we could talk about. Yeah.
I remember one time I was at this club, and did I tell you about this? I somehow end up at this dance club, something like that.
You? Imagine that.
Yeah, really. I mean, it was not like I think it was Aura or something like that.
I was going to say, how many dance clubs do we have?
Yeah, that's one thing. But I'm there, and I end up sitting like next to these really attractive young women, and I just kind of nudged one. And I was like, can I ask you a question? And this sounds horrible and snotty, but I was like, do the words NPR or PBS or
mean
TED
anything to
mean
you?
anything to you? She's like, no. I was like, okay. I was just curious. You having fun? Good. All right. And
save so much time.
Well,
seriously.
I mean, to me, it's like I learn a lot from listening to those shows, and that's I don't have like major degrees, masters or a doctorate or anything like that, but I'm constantly listening to those things. And honestly, there are times when I get all choked up when I'm listening to some of that stuff, and it's not reminds me of, well, it just brings back into focus humanity, the good that people are doing to others, the good that can be done with oneself. So yeah, that type of stuff is really important. What are some other rules or some the rules, part of Allison's manual to make that work?
I hate to feel like I have rules because I like to think that I'm a flexible person, and I like, I've been asked before, what's your type? And I really don't feel like I have a type because I like all ethnicities. I like people that do different jobs. Like, it's not necessarily have to fit in this box for me. So that's a hard question for me to answer. What rules?
Yeah, I agree with you. I remember there was one time I was out with some girlfriends, and they're all like trying to hook me up or something like that. I think we were like at a bar down on the plaza or something like that. And they're like, all right, Nicholas, which one of these girls is your type?
Yeah.
And I was just like, you can't see my type.
Yeah.
My type is someone who's curious. Someone who's kind. To me, I'm like, that's a really attractive quality.
Yeah.
Someone who's like genuinely kind to other people, who's giving to helping and things like that.
It's amazing how obviously physical attraction is important, I feel like, in any relationship, but those qualities in a person can make somebody become even more attractive. And the ones that maybe are super attractive physically, when you get to know them deeper and you get to that core, you like them less. Like, I dated a guy, it was like the more I got to know him, the less I liked him. Yeah, I was like peeling an onion.
What were some things that you were seeing there?
I was seeing insecurity. I was seeing, he reminded me a little bit of my ex-husband, so there was some red flags there, but it was just like the arrogance and the ego and everything. Like, it's fine to joke around and be silly and talk about yourself in that manner. Like, I'm all for that. But when you think that way and truly believe that you are better than somebody else, I'm sorry, but nobody's better than anybody else. And I have a problem with that. So that didn't work out. Imagine that.
So one of the big premises that we've been talking about is that women are becoming more successful. They're becoming more financially independent. They can own their own home now. I mean, which is incredible. I mean,
Yes.
Women are as far as they've gotten in overall society as they've ever gotten. We're still not at parity yet, unfortunately, because we still don't have equal pay. But women are still on a new level that they've never had. But we were talking about how like guys are still doing the same things they've always done. They've always had jobs. They've always been the breadwinner. They've been the male provider, things like that. And so whereas in women's worlds are changing dramatically and their options are being open, guys, they're still doing the same thing. So what are some of the things that women or you might want to share with guys? Be like, look, catch up with me. Get here. Here's what you need to be doing now instead of like behaving like it's the 1950s in terms of dating.
Well, I think that it's a more of a primitive thing for men, to be honest, to want to be that protector and provider for his woman or the family. I think that's natural in a sense, but because of progression, thankfully, we are able to take care of ourselves and not be reliant, which is a beautiful thing, right?
Yeah.
So they need to become more secure, I feel like, within themselves, and having being with a woman who can take care, buy her own stuff. She doesn't need you to buy dinner. Maybe you split the bill,
When you say become more secure, that sounds so easy.
I know, right?
What do you mean by that? Like, what are some things that they've shown that they've been insecure?
Well, like, I had told you about that comment the guy had made that I dated, who said, all you care about is your job, your dog, and your charities, right? Because he was feeling like he wasn't a priority for me. And honestly, frankly, he wasn't a huge priority for me because, in my opinion, he hadn't earned it. So I think in that sense, if he would have given maybe it more time, to see the relationship develop and get to know each other more, then maybe I would give him a higher priority in my life.
So what I'm hearing is, and what I've heard before is that men are trying to like rush in
Oh yeah.
to relationships versus like, like develop. And so, I mean, there's this idea of like, you got to make it happen. You got to jump right in, or you got to say that you like a woman right away. And I guess that's okay to be like, yeah, I do like you, I got a crush on you, or like, I would like to date you.
Sure.
But then you have to like let things organically, naturally happen. You can't force them.
But they also, what else they need to do is be self-sufficient, because I'm sure there are a lot of mamas out there, because this is what mamas do, but they probably were taken care of and had their laundry done and cooked for and all this stuff. Like, if that's what they're expecting from their wife, you know how I feel about cooking. They better learn to do some of that stuff themselves.
Tell us, how do you feel about cooking?
I love when other people cook.
Okay.
That's how I feel. So if he's gonna want me to be home or cook dinner and have that, stereotype, it's not gonna happen.
I think a lot of guys still ask for that. They still there's guys who still want their woman to have dinner by 6, to be there waiting for them when they get home.
And there's those gender roles, right? That maybe it's the wife's job to do the laundry or clean the house, or etc. Well, you need to be able to do all that stuff too. Doesn't mean that I'm not willing to help with that. I personally want it to be a team versus having specific roles. That's my goal when it comes to being in a relationship.
So does that mean like we could cook together?
Yeah, we could cook together. I'm good at like chopping stuff.
Okay.
I'll be your sous chef. How about that?
Okay. Just give me another fantasy right there. So these rules. I keep going back to what you keep saying. I mean, like, he didn't earn it, and I mean, like, I'm just like trying to understand this. I mean, earning it to me means taking the time to put into the relationship, to be considerate of the small things, to not be pushy, to allow a organic friendship to blossom.
Yes.
But what aren't guys? So guys aren't just getting that? Or?
Oh, well, maybe it's the guys that I date, but this guy, God, I hope he doesn't listen to this podcast. He probably won't. He was the type also, I think the like breaking point for me was when he asked me not to use my hands to close the car door, because he didn't like me leaving fingerprints on the door. And I started cracking up because I thought he was joking. I was like, like, that's so funny, like, he was like, no, I'm being serious. Can you just like use your elbow? And I was like, you got to be kidding me. I said, is that big of a deal for you? You can open my door and let me out, but don't ever tell me not to use my hand to shut the door.
How did he open the door and close the door himself? Did he have a glove or
I don't know,
cloth?
But I just I couldn't believe it. I was like hysterical over it. Like, I can't believe you said that to me.
So what did I mean?
And then he would like wipe off. I saw him like wiping off my fingerprints.
What did that tell you? What was it? What was the underlying message?
My underlying message was like, this is never gonna work, because I am not like that. I like nice things, and he had a nice car, and I respect that. But for me, having things means using them, right? So I'm gonna be that person that uses my good dishes. I'm not gonna save it for a special occasion. I want to live, right? So anyway.
Welcome back to The Catch. I'm Nicholas Segura, and tonight we are talking to Allison Rank about all the rules and earning points to date. Allison, this is our point system there.
Ranking.
Tell me about
my
one of your best dates. Tell me about an ideal day. What went really well?
Well.
Is that a common thing or is that a rare thing?
Well,
Is that a common thing or is that a rare thing?
I would really have to think about it. So I would say that I'm an active person. So, okay.
Or do you date or do you hang out? Wait, how do you do it?
I know, it's hard. I've been on dates and I go on dates, but I also hang out. So it's tough. You know, I dated a guy, a great guy. In fact, I think you probably know him. Went out on dates with him. And he was so good about planning. Like, he planned the time, like what we were doing, made sure there's food. Like, one time we went bowling, he made sure to bring socks for me in case I wore shoes that didn't have socks. Like, he really made an effort. Like, he was a good guy. And he's one of those that I was saying there are guys that I've dated or gone on dates with that I'm still able to be friends with afterwards, right? Because you're able to do that. But I forgot what your initial question was.
That's kind of funny because when you talk about a guy that you dated but you're still friends with, a lot of guys can't handle that.
Yeah, a lot of guys can't. Yeah.
What's their problem?
I think it goes back to maybe that feeling of rejection, that maybe I rejected him and so now we can't be friends.
Not that guy.
No, not him specifically. I'm just saying.
The guy, what I said was some guys can't handle you being friends with guys that you've dated.
Oh, that's another ball game.
What's wrong with this guy? The guy who can't handle that.
Oh, gotcha.
What's wrong with him? Why can't he handle that?
That's just insecurity is really what it is. Because if you're secure in yourself, it would just be like me not being able to handle him being friends with somebody that he dated. If I was insecure, I would have a problem with that, but I'm not because I know my value. And if he chooses that he wants to be with somebody else, whether it's her or anybody, then that's okay. Thank you for doing me a favor, right? Versus me worrying that he's going to do something with somebody else. I can't live that way.
A personal sense of security sounds like
it's huge.
But the thing is that, like, what I continue to feel like I hear is that there's so many insecure men. How do we get guys to?
I don't know. What do you think that is? Is it because guys have been cheated on? Is it because they're worried about losing them and so they're like have this protective thing? I think women do it too, though. It's not just men.
Well, I agree with you. Yeah, there's a lot of insecure men and women, and it's true. Like from a guy's perspective, I mean, you want a woman who's secure because when you're not secure, things like jealousy pop up, unnecessary jealousy, insecurities about how they look, how much affection they're getting or not getting, and these may not make any difference whatsoever to the other person, but they're looking into it. And so, like, how do we, what do guys need to know about being secure and how important it is to date modern women?
I don't know if you can teach that. I think that's something that you have within you.
Well, let's talk about some of those qualities. What are some of those qualities that look like it from a woman's perspective? Seeing a guy, what does a secure guy look like?
I think a secure guy looks like he's comfortable in his own skin. He has his own life with friends and
like I'm sure you know secure guys.
Oh yeah.
So describe what some of those guys. What are they like?
They're content and happy with themselves. That's tough.
Yeah, like if you know secure guys, and they're content and happy with themselves. But what are some of the other personality traits that you're like, oh yeah, that guy's secure? What are some of the things that you see?
I don't know if I can answer that. I don't think it's like these specific. I don't know. I'm sure there are these pieces that you put in and.
What do you observe?
Well, the ones, okay, so I'll use my ex-boyfriend as an example because he is a very secure person. And he never got jealous if I was working with a male client. He never got jealous of any of my male friends. In fact, he welcomed those relationships. And I have a male friend that I'm good friends with who maybe would probably like to date me, but knows that it would never happen. For several reasons, but we're still good friends. And he would joke about me dating my ex-boyfriend, like kind of like, oh, I hope he chokes on his dinner tonight or something, you know, like, because he was like a little jealous, but still being funny about it.
Yeah.
And I would tell my boyfriend at the time, and he would crack up laughing. Like, he thought it was hilarious,
yeah.
versus being like, who's this guy? What's his name? When did you talk to him? Da, 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 you know,
That gets
can't
so
take
ugly
it.
so quick.
Yeah.
Like, it's so dark.
Like, maybe having a good sense of humor and being light, maybe that's a part of it too.
Yeah.
Not taking things personally.
Wow. That seems like there has to be a real, honestly, a real high level of introspection that a person has to have.
Oh yeah.
They have
That's a
to
very
think
good
about
point.
why am I think like you know, why am I thinking like this? Why am I reacting like this? Why am I getting angry? Is this me or is this her or is it him? Oh, it's me. You know, those type of things. That's I want to say that's asking a lot, but it's really not asking a lot.
So maybe I'm wrong when I say it can't be learned, because that's absolutely how you learn how to do it. And you know, it seems like when introspection comes, a lot of times there's some kind of suffering that starts it. So maybe you found yourself being insecure for whatever reason, and you decided how to change that.
Yeah, you start really kind of delving into that, and that's so interesting because like me, I was in my mid 30s when I started studying Buddhism, and one of the first things, there's this thing called the Four Noble Truths, and do you know about these?
Well, is that like the Four Agreements? Is that similar? No. Okay.
Four Noble Truths, the first one is that in this life you will suffer.
Yeah.
You can't avoid that. That's a noble truth. It's true for everyone, from a Buddhist monk to a 1% real estate agent. You're going to suffer. And the rule number 2 is that you are the cause of your own suffering.
Correct.
And that's oftentimes because of ideas and expectations that you set, and when they're not met, then you suffer. But then you get to the point where golden rule number 3, where you, by letting that you have to let go of those things. You practice equanimity, looking at all things as equal. And the golden rule number 4 is that by letting things go, you find peace. And so, but those type of things that I learned, I literally, when I learned those things, I felt like my entire life before that, I kind of like been asleep. I had been almost like ruled by my emotions. And I think that a lot of people, they don't
tremendously
have those. They don't have those introspective moments where they're looking at their emotions and realizing that they can control their emotions versus their emotions controlling them.
Absolutely. We don't get to always choose what happens to us, right? But we can control how we react to what happens to us. But that takes work, just like everything else.
And it takes, and you really have to like look at your you have to look at yourself in the mirror, look at your emotions in the mirror, look at your behaviors.
And be true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
that's really hard for people to be honest with
yourself.
Themselves. Yes, it is.
Because that's when people get scared of that, and then they run away from it. They're just like, I want to go watch some Netflix.
Yeah, and be mindless.
Yeah.
Instead of doing the hard things.
That's like that right there. Just literally just talking about that in itself seems really like, whoa. You're like, you feel it down here, like, yeah, man, that's some heavy, hard stuff that you got to deal with sometimes.
Because it's the saying, if you do what is easy, your life will be hard. But if you do what is hard, your life will be easy.
Where'd you hear that from?
I don't remember. I don't remember. But it takes work, right? Do what's hard. Do the hard work and to help make your life easy. Versus what a lot of people do is they take the easy route and it ends up being harder.
Kind of like cooking.
No, cooking is not an analogy for everything.
Oh goodness, this is going to be a horrible analogy, but I've always like, this is a horrible analogy. But I've shared it before where I've said that my mom makes the most amazing lasagna.
I believe it.
Yeah, I mean, not so like she's Italian or something like that, but she makes the most amazing lasagna, and it's the type of lasagna that you don't just eat it and swallow it. You put it in your mouth and you swirl it around in your mouth and you get it all up in your gums and all that stuff, and you just enjoy every bite.
Yeah.
But eventually that lasagna runs out. The plates runs out, the tray of it runs out. My mom's made me a whole tray before, anything like that. But some people, and this is the whole like temporal nature of relationships. Some people, they will see maybe that great tray of lasagna and they know it's going to be good, but they also know that it's going to end because there's a circumstance.
Right.
And they're like, I'm just not going to eat it at all. And I'm like, man, enjoy it.
Right.
Everything ends.
Yeah, everything.
And so, you know, so see, I'm tying food into dating and things like that. Is that a bad analogy?
No, I mean, you could do better. But I understand.
Yeah. So back to rules and points. I think that's fascinating because I've never really heard anyone say that before. Like they didn't earn it, but I really appreciate that. Again, the guys are trying to figure out like what do we do now in this 20th century with a modern woman who like, I don't need you to pick me up. I can drive myself. I'll meet you there. What are some other things that guys need to pick up on?
Well, I think, you know, that whole self-sufficient part and maybe the financial part that like, yeah, we have our own homes and own our own cars and we're not looking for and I hate to stereotype, but I feel like a lot of women do look at a man for security versus whatever other reason that might be important for them. And that sometimes leads to problems down the road, right? Because if you're only marrying for security or money, right? And not love, is that really going to last?
Yeah. Or a healthy relationship.
Yeah.
You know, because I'm like, yeah, money can run out and a job and, you know, all that can run out.
Anything. I mean, it's just...
But if you have a healthy relationship,
yeah.
you can work through all those
Or somebody could get sick,
things.
you know, get disfigured. I mean, there's so many things that could happen in life that you have to be strong enough to get through that.
Let me ask you a difficult question.
Okay.
You're in your right around 30 or something like that, and a lot of and this question isn't planned, but you know, a lot of women, they really do want families. And what they find, for example, like a friend of mine, Ava, years ago, we had this joke that we said, if we're 40, we're not married, then we'll marry each other. You know, many friends have said that to each other. But what happens if you like become 40 or you're 45 and maybe you're married or you just haven't had children yet? What is that something? How do you feel like looking forward that might not be a possibility? Because while dating is challenging and finding a guy that there's a good match, and who knows, is that really even necessary? I mean, if you want a family, yes, but how do you look forward and do you feel comfortable with that, or how do you address that?
So, because of my experiences and being in a marriage where I was unhappy for so long, I will never, I guess settle would be a good word, or I will choose to be alone versus choosing to be with the wrong person every time. And I'm okay with that. Yeah. And I had told you before that kids are important to me. And the beauty of it is that I can have options, right? I have options. I can have a child on my own. I can adopt on my own. This probably sounds crazy and it's a modern world, but I have gay friends that I could probably have kids with and do that if I decided to explore that route with them. I mean,
wow.
I'm not limited to just...
Yeah, you're right.
I'm really not.
You're right.
I have options.
My best friend Shelly adopted a child. I think Shelly was 45 when she adopted a child. And like, wow, it's like, yeah, you can do that. And yeah, it's hard as a single mom, but yeah, you can do that.
It's possible.
A totally modern world. Tell me about respect. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, that's a non-negotiable. So maybe that should have been my number one, you know?
Tell me about this. Sounds hard. A non-negotiable deal breaker.
Yeah. So I demand it. Like that if I don't have respect, then like we're done.
What is that? What now? Okay, well, I respect you. I respect you.
Sure.
Guys are going to say that.
Well, it's actions, not necessarily words, you know, and that could be a level of different things, but I think mostly is like not talking down to you, using negative words, using name calling maybe at times. Obviously, physical respect is important too. I mean, that's hard to quantify.
That's interesting. Let's go through those real quick.
Yeah.
Down talking or mansplaining, as some might say it. I mean, do you see that? Do you feel like you see that?
Oh, I see it
all the time.
I see it in real. I wouldn't say all the time because I see.
I'm talking about it in daily life. You see it every day.
I see it. I see it.
Yeah, but and so when it happens to you, what happens when you're like? What do you feel like when you feel like someone talking down?
You know,
to you?
I get it in my job, dealing with men. And it's funny because I'm just, you know, I can dish it out too if we're gonna go head to toe. Like, you know, I think at one point there was like one male real estate agent that was trying to be a bully to me, and I said, well, you know, if you want to have a pissing contest, we can talk about who sold more homes, and that shut him up. So
love that.
You know, like there's no reason. We're equals here, but there are men that.
And in relationships, having someone talking down to you in a relationship is
well, I got that so much in my marriage, so I can spot it from a mile away.
From a mile away.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah.
You mean to build people up.
Yes.
Each other. It's not just one person. It's equal. Build each other up. You shouldn't be cutting them down in any capacity. There's always improvement to be made.
Yeah.
There's no such thing as a perfect person.
Talking down. What are some other things that's disrespectful or not showing respect?
Well, I would say using negative words.
Yeah, and what do you mean by negative words?
Well, calling name calling would be one of them. Just like putting somebody down equal to talking down. But if you're going to be negative on somebody, that's disrespectful in my opinion.
I remember one time I was dating someone who, you know, their way of showing affection was by cutting you. And they're like, that's the way I show you how much I like you.
No, it's not.
And I'm like, well, I don't like that.
No.
That doesn't feel good.
No.
Because what happens is you go back, you do the same thing back, and then you start getting into this habit of it. I'm like, I don't like this.
No.
I don't like this type of relationship.
No.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of that either. I'm not okay with it. But you know what? I'm not okay with it. I don't like seeing it. I don't like hearing it. I'm one of those people that will stand up and say something to somebody if I feel like they're being disrespectful. And that could be at the grocery store.
Yeah.
You know?
And you were also talking about physical, you said physical.
Physical respect too.
Tell me about that.
Well, I think there are boundaries in a relationship depending on the level and the time. And
that's interesting. That makes me think, first thing is like some guys in relationships, they demand sex.
Yeah.
You're my girlfriend, you're my wife.
No. You don't own a person. They don't owe you anything.
But you're my wife.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
It's my body. Yeah.
So guys are going to have a problem with that. Or some guys do.
I think some guys would, sure.
Yeah. And you're like, no, that's got to go.
Well, I would say, so that would be something, why would one person not want to be sharing that if you're in a marriage, right? Like there's got to be other things going on, in my opinion. But yeah, as a man, you can't take that from a woman if she says no.
Mm-hmm. Even if you're married.
Even if you're married.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is there like a point or a point where like, okay, I can't take any more of this? Do you have a very low threshold?
Yeah, I have low tolerance. Yeah.
Yeah. And so what's the lesson for men and women regarding, respect?
I feel like it's easy. You do unto others as you wish to be done unto you, right?
Yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm. Let me ask you a question. So if you were to give advice to your younger self about dating, relationships, life, looking forward, what kind of advice do you think you would give your younger self?
I would say that it gets so much better. It gets so much better. Every year, as you get older, it just gets better.
Do you think, I feel like that's the opposite message that women are given in general. In general, women are given the message that you get older and it gets worse and it's harder. You get gray, you get fatter, you get wrinkly.
Yeah, we do get all those things, but I feel like life gets better the older I get, the more I enjoy it.
So that's the advice that you'd give your younger self? Okay, cool.
That whatever you're stressing about in your 20s, like, that's no big deal.
Today we're talking to Allison Rank about the rules, modern women, what they're looking for. You're listening to The Catch. My name is Nicholas Segura, and I want to give a big shout out to Allison for thank you for coming in and playing with me today.
You're welcome.
Because on the set. Also want to thank Realennial Media for shooting and editing, and be sure to look for other episodes on iTunes, on the website, and other places where you get your favorite podcast. We'll see you again soon. Thanks.